the Informatio here. Welcome to another battle of the debuts, where we take those first albums of two people, bands, and see which are the best. And the good thing is you get to decide who wins this one. I'll give you my opinion, but I think I've only won one in about 6 weeks, so see how this one goes. So today, well, I thought I'd look at two keyboard electronic wizards that were very pioneering when they started. That's Jean-Michel Jarre and Vangelis. So first one up today is Jean-Michel Jarre. As we know, he's a French composer, performer, producer, and a pioneer of electronic synth, pop, ambient and new age genres. Born in Lyon, was raised in Lyon by his mother and grandparents, trained on the piano, and has had a very, very successful career. Now everyone thinks that Oxygen was his first release, and it wasn't. His first release was in 1973, and it was this one called Deserted Palace. There's not much about it. It's all I know that it was released on Sam Fox Records, and it's his first full-length album release under his own name. So on here, the first track is called A Poltergeist Party. Now this is an interesting bit of very early synthesizer. It's okay, but very raw. The sort of thing you'd play on your Casio, if you remember the Casios. Second track is called Music Box Concerto. Now this sounds like it's going to end up on Equinox, because there's little bits of Equinox in this, and you know, even back in 73 he'd got some ideas, and I think this is sort of where it would appear. Then we get a little thing called a Rainforest Rap Session. Even on basic keyboards he was making some interesting noises and great sounds. It's okay. And then we get a thing called a love theme for Gargoyles. It's a very short little sequencing pitch, really sort of thing. Yeah. Then we get Bridge of Promises. Now this was the first proper tune with a drum machine on. It's very odd in places, but this is still early days, so okay. Then we get Exasperated Frog. That's just a frog, mate. Funny frog noises. Yeah. Take Me to Your Leader. This is a drum sequence with a few little keyboard effects on it. Nothing inspiring. Deserted Place. This is probably one of the best pieces on here. It's an interesting little ditty. You can see where he was going to go. Pogo Rock is quite groovy. Nice little bits of sequencing in that one. Then we get Windswept Canyon. This is the longest track on here, but it's got the formula that you would find on Oxygen, Magnetic Fields and Equinox, and first 3 albums. Then we get a very quirky little Abominable Snowman, when you really think. Iraqi Hitch-Hiker, quite a quirky little track this is. It's got a good little beat to it. Free Floating Anxiety, weird. Synthetic Jungle is yuck, and Beat Factory I've just put down shite. It is awful. Okay, as far as this album goes, it's got some very little interesting pieces on it. But you can see where Jean-Michel Jarre was going to go. There are some absolute shockers on here. He was experimenting, I give him that. But there are very consistent traits that would appear on his albums. Hats off to him, because this is very, for 1973, this was quite out there. And I don't play it that often, but now and again it's nice to put it on and remember where he started. There's not much written about this, but I found it was conceived for a series of short musical pieces that to be used in film and television. Deserted Place received a very limited release, making it difficult and costly to record to obtain these days. I got a copy here. But he really did start of it wasn't until Oxygen. This is what looking for new records said in 2016. Although I'd rather listen to Oxygen or Equinox, it's interesting to listen to Jarre's tune from the beginning of the career. Deserted Palace includes lively compositions such as Music Box Concerto and other experimental tracks. I think it's interesting to hear some of the music from Jarre of the early 70s, but the tracks are really experimental and were unsuccessful. Okay, let's have a look at nuts and bolts of this. Song quality, yes, a bit mixed. It's experimental, but there is signs of the genius that was to become Jean-Michel Jarre. So I'm going to give this a 3 out of 5. Production, I think it's pretty good for considering when it's recorded. It would have been probably done on very simple recording equipment. It's very raw sound, but I'll give it a 3 out of 5. Reception, it didn't go down very well. Sunk without a trace, and it's rare as rocking horse doo-doo to get hold of. If you do get hold of it, it is quite expensive, so I'm going to give this a 2 out of 5. Cover design, that's pretty alright. Bit hippie and groovy for the time. Nice colours, eye-catching. So I'll give the design a 3 out of 5. So, for Deserted Palace, Jean-Michel Jarre gives us a total of 11 out of 20. So let's move on to Vangelis. And now this is where the confusion is. It's his second album, but the first album was not an official album. So this is the first official solo album by Vangelis, and it's called Earth, and this was also released in 1973. Again, it was very hard to get hold of, and it was released in the 80s though on compact disc. And as we know, Vangelis started life in Aphrodite's Child, and again went on to have a fantastic career. Sadly died last year, but we've gone through all, we've done both these chaps as looking at their albums. We did a story of Vangelis, and both terrific. Vangelis was involved in so many projects. So let's have a look at his album Earth. So the first track on here is called Come On. This is very still going back to his Aphrodite Child days. There's some elements of prog in this, and then there's little elements that he did on that album, that unofficial album called The Dragon. And I love the vocal on this, it's really, really good. We Were All Uprooted, lovely atmospheric track, Greek progressive sound, lovely keyboards on here, good atmosphere. Then we have Sunny Earth, an interesting track. It's got lots of cultural sounds on this. Drums are from India, keyboardy from sort of China. Really good track, nice use of the keyboards on this. Eho, little bits that are involved from that album Dragon, very mystic, lovely keyboard work on this, it's terrific. Ritual, good use of the voices, just texturized, some interesting percussion on here, and it sort of works. Let It Happen, very 70s. Very middle of the road sound, but interesting. The city is just lots of drum sounds and lots of sounds, don't understand. Then we have Rain in My Face. This is a track I've always loved. There's some strings on this, and you could see where this is the track. You go, right, this is where Vangelis wants to go. Got them little delicate touches that he was renowned for. Then we get Watch Out. After the soothing, gentle Rain on My Face, you get this great percussion of drums and a very Greek sort of influence. Then we get a song, and it's called a song, a wonderful vocal on here. I don't know who's singing it. The words are interesting, and it's just like a spring sort of morning sort of song. Very nice. What do I think of this album? I like this album, always have. It's not my favourite album, but it's pretty good. It's sort of hanging on from his Aphrodite Child days. There's bits that came from that album, Dragon. But you got, this is the sound you was going to get for the next 30-40 years from him. As usual, there is not much written about this, but AllMusic did give it a 3 stars. Didn't chart. There is just nothing written about this at all. So we'll have a look at the nuts and bolts sort of based on what I had got. So song quality, really good songs on here. Still not perfection, of course. The sound's still very raw, but you knew where we was going. So I'm going to give this a 3 out of 5. Production, again, very basic production for the time. For the time, it was new, it was different. So I'm going to give that a 3 out of 5. Reception, sank without a trace, but AllMusic did give it 3.5 stars. So, and I quite like it. And you talk to a lot of people about Vangelis, and they always sort of mention this album. So I'm going to give this a 3 out of 5. Cover design, it's a picture of a very young Vangelis. Yeah, nothing wrong with pictures of the person on the front. So I'm going to give that a 3 out of 5. So Earth by Vangelis gives us a total of 12 out of 20. So today it goes to Vangelis. So both Vangelis and Jean-Michel had very humble beginnings with these early albums, but you could see the potential. But when it comes down to it, out of these 2 albums, I think Vangelis is a little bit better. I tend to play out of the 2. I tend to play Earth more. But what both are the beginnings of 2 fantastic composers. And I love their music and what they went on to achieve, both of them. But today we'll give this one to Vangelis. Okay, you may disagree with me, but you know the drill. There's the poll on the community, or just put it in the comments below. Obviously you can vote if you join the live stream tonight. It's on all the other social media platforms that I appear on, so cast your vote. Okay, that's all for this edition of Battle of the Debuts. I'll be back later with the picks and mix, and this week it's in the camera's view, so we look at a music DVD or video. In this case it's a video that eventually went onto DVD, and it is Whitesnake Commandos, which was their performance at Donington in 1983. So join me for that later. Bye for now.